that deep within your abdomen.
Dr. Sean, if someone is watching this and they want to lose weight, they want to feel better, and they want to lose the chance of having heart attacks, what should they do?
Yeah, good question. So first, most people fixate on losing weight because the bathroom scale tells them that they have too high of a number. But you don't want to live your life based on a number. You're a human being, so you want to lose disease. You want to lose disease tissue. So purpose, just like your question says, you want to eliminate the what is going to cause you to have a heart attack. And so the most immediate steps for eliminating this epicardial fat is what we've seen in studies is, by the way, when you eliminate this epicardial fat, this heart fat, you also eliminate visceral fat, fat deep in your abdomen, and you also eliminate fat within your muscle called myosteatosis. This is where your muscles become marbleized with inflammatory fat. This is why when you typically age, your muscles are filling slowly with fat and you're turning into a ribeye. You don't know you're turning into your ribeye, but it doesn't matter that you lifted a ton of weights. Let's say you're the world champion weightlifter. You're like Arnold Schwarzenegger. When you hit your 60s, you're going to have a physique that is a fraction of what it was before because of that inflammatory fat that went undetected. All these bodybuilders don't have the courage and knowledge to get a single MRI and look for this fat that's filling their muscle. They're losing their subcutaneous fat. So just kind of set, before I answer your question, I'll take my shirt off. I've not worked out today. I'm 62 years old. I work out, um, hardly worked out my lifetime. When I started working out, it was 15 years ago, and I've worked out the same way ever since. About 15 minutes every 3 days or 5 minutes a day. I freaking hardly work out. Why? Because animals do the same thing. They hardly work out, but they look great. They look healthy. I don't take testosterone. I don't take growth hormone. I don't abuse insulin. I don't take steroids. And I have never, ever, ever done that. I like all these social media influencers that say, I don't do steroids. I don't do this, but they did it for years. Okay. Then they stop and now they think that, that they'll explain their body. I never have. You have a natural, beautiful, healthy body given to you, and it will stay that way if you live correctly. So, exercise is not the key. It's not the only thing. You're not going to exercise yourself into maintaining a good, healthy body without doing many, many other things. So, let's get into that. So, we'll put exercise on the shelf as far as a strategy for getting rid of this fat for now. I'll return to more decency and put my shirt on here in case there's some little muffin out there who goes, "Oh my God, I can't. He took his shirt off. He's so unprofessional." Listen, we need this kind of character and personality and influence. You can't be this fat man or woman hiding in a white coat with a stethoscope telling people what they got to do to be healthy.
I agree.
Sometimes it comes down to how well you hunt with that spear, that we need to say, that woman is who I'm going to listen to in terms of how I'm going to live my life. All right. So the first thing I would recommend is you cut out processed foods. Processed foods are the biggest contributor to this fat forming around your heart. And it starts very, very early because we get exposed to it. In some cases, day one. Some infants are born and tragically, they have shoved in them formula instead of the absolute miraculous source of food that should be provided to them in the form of breast milk. We start giving babies, infant formula to And in one case, a client who came to me, he was given worse than infant formula. His pediatrician, who although I think was well intended, was an absolute lunatic because he advised that my client's mother to feed that baby Borden sweetened condensed milk. Can you imagine being raised from day one on sweetened condensed milk? What that would do to you? And this kid, that baby turned into a fat baby and filled with chronic disease now in his 50s because of what happened to him and the undetected influence that wrought on his microbiome, the collection of bacteria and friendly gut microbes that you start collecting within your body that stay with you for a lifetime and you want to be cultivating. So, starting with what goes in your mouth, you want to eliminate processed foods and begin eating clean, more wholesome, natural food that doesn't have chemicals in it, does not have food additives, which preserve food and keep them from going stale and rancid. So bacteria doesn't grow in them and cause it to be less fresh. You eat those processed foods and it goes down, and it's basically like taking antibiotics, chemicals that go into your body. And let me point out a big problem with processed foods that they're tested on human cells, but they're not tested on the more vulnerable cells that are inside your body that you rely on. They're the most important aspect of your health, your microbiome. So all these food companies, chemical companies, including Monsanto that creates Roundup, has science that was done where they looked at the direct influence of Roundup used on food sources on human cells. And yeah, it looks like their ability to influence a human cell directly is undetectable. But if you look at the indirect route, which has a far greater magnitude in your health than just dumping on your human cells, your epithelial cells, your gastrointestinal tract, then it becomes a complete toxic that leads to heart attacks, strokes, cancer, neurodegenerative conditions, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, dementia, a whole host of problems. So they're skirting their responsibility and really what I think is corporate murder of human beings by not looking at and failing to address the impact that these food additives and chemicals are infecting and inflicting on human beings through the microbiome. So cut out all processed foods, eat clean food, eating whole foods. I studied a multitude of diets and vegan, vegetarian, pescatarian, Mediterranean, paleo, keto, carnivore. And as far as their impact on eliminating this fat around the heart and fat deep within the abdomen, and the best form of eating for most quickly eliminating that fat is eating a carnivore diet. But the very best form is eating a carnivore diet with fermented foods, something that I call meat and microbes, or the other term I call it the living carnivore diet. People that eat the carnivore diet are eating the dead carnivore diet. It's a piece of dead meat. But what you want to be doing is to be more ancestral aligned in what animals do. Animals don't eat dead things. They eat things that have been killed but have living microbes in and on them. So, for instance, when there's a kill in the wild by a predator of a prey, that prey has all these microbes teeming on its fur, on its feathers, on its skin, because they don't use soap, don't use chemicals. And so those microbes get into the predator when they kill that animal start consuming it. But today, we eat domesticated animals that are processed, sterilized, clean, disinfected everywhere. If you ever go into a meat packaging processing facility, they're walking around with big yellow boots and white things all over their hair, and there's disinfectant and chemicals going everywhere because the USDA, has all these guidelines, and there's sterilized packaging of meat, and it's very clean, and there's no bacteria. God forbid, any bacteria get in there, and then there's all sorts of warning, going around. So what you want to be doing is eating a living carnivore diet. So you can't get that animal hide. You can't get access to those microbes because that was left back at the plant. So eat fermented foods. Get some living microbes, food sources that have living microbes into you, and do what our ancestors did. You want to drink living water with living microbes in. We never do that. We drink water with chlorine, which, is placed deliberately into our water system to keep it from having any bacteria so that we don't cause, allegedly, diarrheal illnesses. Now, I say allegedly with air quotes around it, because the truth is, the municipal water systems in the past were so poor, they did contribute to diarrheal illnesses, and so chlorine stopped that. But it doesn't mean it was a good idea. It's dumping chemicals on water. You don't want to have those bad bacteria. You want to have something more balanced. Well, instead of a stupid 1700 year, a municipal water system from the 1700s and 1600s, which were very poor and close to sewage and all sorts of stuff, and got a lot of bad water in it. What about drinking glacier water? What about drinking well water? What about drinking natural water that comes from deep springs? That's the kind of water that our ancestors had access to, and that we still do, and you should be drinking. So I advocate, drinking water that has not been pasteurized. If you buy natural spring water in some glass jar, or especially a plastic jar, from Whole Foods or your best natural food market, it's got buckets in it, no living microbes. You got to go get it yourself and jump in Google and find natural spring near me. Go get a 5-gallon glass jar and go get your natural spring water that will be teeming with beautiful, wonderful microbes in it, and use that to drink so that you get living microbes in you. So cut out processed foods, eat fermented foods, eat a healthy meat-based diet with the healthiest form of meat that you can get. And that's not going to be bacon from a Hormel factory that goes through 2 million pigs a year. It's going to be something like grass-fed, grass-finished, pastured animals that are out in the sunshine, that, don't go, into barns and get all stressed out, and are fed an unnatural diet like pellets and wheat and feed and grain and corn and soy. But it's got its beautiful large head down on the ground, eating living grass coming out of it. And, I will tell you as a researcher, if that cow is eating dry grass, yeah, the USDA can permit a company to claim it's grass-fed and grass-finished, but it's dead grass. And there's a world of difference in the flesh of the animal that eats living grass and is eating more healthy. So maybe I'll just show you a picture of that so you can grasp it. So this is an animal that's grass-fed, grass-finished. This is an animal fed grain. And this is what we see on an MRI in human beings that eats processed foods. When you eat processed foods, you get all this visceral fat inside. And this is that marbleization. That looks like the same photograph cut in a circle in black and white as this other photograph here. But when you do an MRI on a human being and look at its muscles, this is what you see often in an average diseased person. But if you do an MRI on a healthy man or woman, they have just beautiful muscles. See this big, gigantic muscle? The same muscle right there. But look how much bigger this is, and look how it's all dark instead of the streaks, the disease that's happening. Clue. Ready for this? If you're watching this podcast, your muscles don't work as well when they start to get replaced with fat. Okay? Don't worry about cholesterol. You want to worry about this fat filling your muscle, filling surrounding your heart, and filling your abdomen, because this guy's visceral fat is just that tiny little bit there. You see this little muscle here? That's called your core, iliopsoas. Do you see how far it is to this guy's six pack? Do you see his little teeny tiny sugar britches six pack? He's got a whole lot of nothing going on there. Okay, nothing. And look at that huge distance because of all that disease. But let's look at this. This is the vertebral body. So you can see, it gives you an idea. That's a bone. Everybody's bones are roughly the same size. Oh, no, that's not true. There's a variation about 20%. Okay, smart guy. Put that back on the shelf. It is one of the most symmetric things, okay? Not perfect. So look at this guy's bone and his muscle compared to it, compared to this guy's bone and his muscle compared to that. This guy's muscle here, the core, about 5 times bigger than this guy. This guy could get up out of a chair like nothing. You know, he could do handstands. He could do many more things than this guy. This guy couldn't get his butt out of a chair. He has to swing to get up out of a couch. So big difference because of the core, the small muscle, and all that. But take a look at where his core is in relationship to his, oh, by the way, massive six pack. The two are touching. They're kissing each other. They're up against each other. That's what you want to see. Your muscles wall to wall without this disease inside. The average person isn't aware of it. So eat the healthiest meat you can get, grass-fed, grass-finished, ideally game meat that hasn't been exposed to chemicals and foods and pellets and unnatural dieting. Eat the living carnivore diet where you get these fermented foods and living microbes into you. And those are key strategies for dietary living. And then the third thing you want to do is you want to exploit stress hormesis. You want to live predominantly in a parasympathetic, relaxed state. Animals, for most of their day, are casually existing in an enjoyable state, and then they have brief, momentary, very brief, intense, sympathomimetic little bursts. You know, a wolf will show up and the deer will take off running. A wolf will, just exist for a long time and he finds a deer and chases it down real fast, catches it and kills it, or it gets away or whatever. It's fight or flight. So you want fight or flight. You just want it brief, maximally intense. So work out like the animals. Animals don't go to a gym and work out for 30 minutes or 45 minutes. Okay, now you got the gym bro or the gym gal. Well, I go to the gym and I work out for 3 hours, man, and I feel real good. Okay, well, you're the first species in the world to do that. No other animals do that. Why are you doing that? How do you know beyond just you getting muscles that that's good? Have you ever looked in your muscles and seen what's going on? Are they filling with fat? Is your abdomen filling with fat? Is your heart filling with fat? Do you know how many bodybuilders drop dead of heart attacks? It's happening all the time. And it's, everybody's quick to jump on it's COVID. Well, it may be that we just freaking live so bad. And I'm not going to defend COVID because I'm right in the camp that, you know, I think it was absolutely ridiculous, and I do not support the COVID vaccine. I'll just come out and say that. I think there's way too much smoke to have that thing, coming in my house. I'm worried about my house burning down. I'll take my chances with COVID rather than that daggone vaccine. So there I am with COVID. But I do see way too many people saying this Jim bro, he was super out, man. That guy, I worked out with that guy. He dropped that was COVID. Oh yeah, really? How do you know? So get an MRI, identify that threat. You want to do stress hormesis, maximally intensive, brief forms of exercise, sprinting and lifting weights briefly, but maximally intensive so that you get massive amount of lactate. Two factors you want. You want the burn and you want shortness of breath. You want to basically get to the point where fight and flight, the two things that you see in nature with fight and flight, is burning from lactate, massive amount of muscle engagement, and very short of breath. The animal, predator or prey, is dyspneic. That's a medical term for shortness of breath. You got these people working out in gyms for 3 hours. They never really get profoundly short of breath anywhere close to what nature does in a 30-second sprint. And that's all you got to do. And that's why I work out about 5 minutes a day. And I have at least a healthy figure for a 62-year-old man. I haven't seen too many 62-year-olds that have as much, healthy appearance, especially given how little exercise I do. So people are exercising the wrong way. And then a few other kind of stress remedics, sunshine exposure. You want sunshine without sunscreen. Don't buy the lie. Don't be rubbing a bunch of chemicals on your body to protect you from the sun. Your body is acclimated to the sun. It's adapted to the sun, but it doesn't do well in the sun with a bunch of this. So if you're filled with this, you're going to burn. You're going to have problems from the sun because you're diseased. You only need, to be careful about the sun because of that. But the way to live your life is not with chemicals and an artificial life. Maybe just put a shirt on or limit the amount of time, minimize the amount of time that you spend out in the sun until you get rid of this fat, and then you'll naturally tan. And you can see I got a tan on me. I tan super easy, very, very easily at the age 62. And most old people, if you run into a person in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, they're white as a sheet of paper because they're so filled with this visceral fat and fat in their muscle and fat around their heart that if they haven't dropped dead of cancer or heart attack yet, their health is so bad they can't even tan. So, you want to avoid all these other chemicals apart from eating, putting them on your body. And another beneficial form of a stress hormesis I like is a sauna and cold plunging. I recommend that. And then the 4 other things you got to limit so that you don't get these deadly fats inside of your body are: 1, you want to limit stress. You want to make sure you don't have stress in your life that is chronic. The kind of stress you want is brief and intense. A fist fight, it's done. I'm not advocating going down to a bar and getting a fist fight, but you can work out in a manner, in a punching bag real hard for, 2 to 3 minutes, and do some burnouts and get a nice stress hormetic workout. And that will also lower the stress of your job. Let's say you got a job that causes a lot of stress. You're always working. I had a neighbor that had to figure out every month how to spend $2 billion a month. And I thought that was super fun. And he whipped around. He gave me such a look on his face. It is not fun. It's super stressful. Right away, I detected how stressed out that guy was because when you got $2 billion, if you just got $100 and you throw it in the stock market, that's one thing. But $2 billion and that's your job. Everybody's looking at how you're performing. That really is stressful. So we all have levels of stress. The idea is that you want to minimize that amount of stress and you want to exist in a mostly parasympathetic state. So I'm not a counselor, but I am a clinical physician. And I will tell you, you can reduce chronic stress, even a stressful job like trying to figure out, the performance, financial performance of $2 billion every 30 days. You can mitigate that stress by doing push-ups and pull-ups to failure or just one or two sprints. And nobody ever tells you that. Every graduating class from Harvard School MBA program or any MBA program or any college program for that matter should be telling people that you should threat mitigate. One of your biggest sources of disease is going to be stress coming in from cortisol, and you can actually diminish it by just doing some sprinting, pull-ups, and push-ups. But we don't train business professionals. We don't train any kind of professionals with awareness of this threat, of stress. And we sure as heck don't tell them about epicardial fat, the fat around their heart. So what really matters most in your life, almost nobody ever finds out about. And so those are my recommendations in a nutshell.
Expressing here a special thanks to Santa Cruz Paleo. I got these products for free, and I used their products even before I got those for free, so I just think it would be very fair for me to just share this to my podcast, to my channel, because they handle these for free for me, and it's pretty expensive, especially as a college student, so it really helped me on my expenses. So here it is. I really enjoy their products. I like the whey protein. I tried most of the electrolytes too, so I really like the mango one here in the bottom. And they have many other products, just like they just launched the electrolyte version with no natural flavors. I even prefer it without natural flavors. So a portable version, it's really good if you want to check it out, santacruzpaleo.com. I also use their vitamin D, which is really good quality. They put it in olive oil, not soybean oil and palm oil, just like many other conventional brands would give. So if you want to take a look, it's really good. Check it out, santacruzpaleo.com, and